Welcome. Look at this lovely item we have for you today. A special treat. It arrived in a cardboard box, the broken cuckoo clock. Now that should be moved over. And I think this loose leaf must have fallen off of here. Probably just need to glue that back on the front face. And I think this might be just a headboard that goes at the top, and this looks like it's a Kammerer. And Helmut Kammerer started making cuckoo clocks in 1938. I don't know the age of this one. Probably much newer than that. The company is still going today. I see my antlers have seen better days. This one's okay. But the other one's broken. We'll have to glue that back together. I think the parts are there though. This must just fit at the top. Yeah, I can see the dust marks where the deer head fits. That just needs to get screwed back in place. And then this is our pendulum. That just would hang underneath on the movement. And our two weights. Well, let's just check to see behind our door. We should have our cuckoo. Hopefully that's in place. Ah, there it is. Okay, well that's a good sign. And the movement's in here as well. So I think it's complete. It was sold as not working. Let's just see if we can find out what's going on with it. That must be the chime. The bellow. Two bellows for the cook and the coo. I think the right one must be the first one to fire, the cook. And then the coo on the left. Well, let's take these bellows out first of all. And they're set in with a couple of pin nails. And we'll do the other side as well. Yeah, so these were all made with woods from the Black Forest in Germany. And they used linden wood and maple wood to make these, and still do so today. So I've got these lifters here that just operate the bellows. Let's get the movement out. There's 4 screws to undo. And then I've got the cuckoo here on the cuckoo post or bird post. And yeah, that front cover is coming away as well, isn't it? We'll need to get that repaired. But I'll need to take these hands off just to be able to slide the movement out from the back. Oh, this hour hand's not coming away easily though. Let me just add some protection here for the dial. Don't want to damage that while we try and leverage this hour hand off. Not sure why that's stuck there. I think it's just a friction fit. Now that's got it. Okay, I should be able to slide this movement out once we just undo the bird here from the door. Is it going to come out? I'll still have to take care of those chains. Yeah, I can see one here has completely come off the ratchet wheel. Okay, that's the movement out. But I can't get these chains out without removing the hooks and the rings. I don't know too much about these movements. This is a Regula, and it's called a 25, model 25. So I'll just remove the bird from the bird post. Try to remember where it's placed. I imagine that will need some adjustment once we put it all back together again. And then these levers here just operate the connectors through to the bellows. Well, I'll get the chains off first. That will give us better access. And this setting lever here is the shut off, so we can operate the cuckoo clock without the cuckoo if we want to. I'm seeing a lot of these hairs in this clock. Well, let's start dismantling. Yeah, I've got 4 posts, corner posts here, and we'll just see if we can get those out first. This is the hammer that works against that chime. And these just need to be turned 180 degrees, and you can slide them up and out through the plates. And these are the cuckoo operators. And then the pendulum leader. Might as well take that out. All of these parts will go through the cleaner. I don't know where this came from. A small brass bushing or ring. It's not that. Well, we'll put it aside and work that out later. And start removing the dial side. This rack here. And snail. Everything seems to be held in with these E-clips. Well, that should give us a clue that this cuckoo clock's a little bit later than we expected. And they do tend to be springy, so I'm going to use a Rodico putty here just to dampen them from flying across the room, as I already had one do that. Yeah, then we can slide the lifting rack off. And the snail. I guess this is equivalent to the minute wheel. And just remove the catch here. That's the gathering pallet on the other side of that. More E-clips. I'll just slide that from underneath the gathering pallet. That's all going to need to be set up when we put it back together. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Oh, caught it. Well, this one's got the spring on the other side of it, so there's another pair of E-clips here we'll need to work at. Kind of learning as I go here on this, finding more hairs. And this is to operate our bird post. Spring loaded. Not quite sure how that post will come out though. We've got these jaws here, but I don't see any other way but to separate these jaws to allow us to remove this post. Perhaps it's the only way. Okay. Look at these hairs in here. How on earth has that happened? Oh, gosh. How does the rhyme go? Hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck 1, down ran the mouse, hickory dickory dock. But in my case, I think the mice just stayed up in the clock and lived there. Or maybe they had cats or something. Maybe there's one still here. Look at this. I'm having to change out my Rodico and just work at this with my tweezers. No wonder the movement had jammed and wasn't working. Well, we'll keep going. It's our star wheel. Actually, I'm just noticing on this movement, can you see here the designation is a 25U, while Regula, the company that manufactured these movements, dated them by alphabet, and U translates to 1986. I wonder if it's a newer movement, or it could be an original 1986 model, so much newer. As we expected, I think, with those E-clips. And those letters repeat every 20 years. Not every letter is used in the alphabet. Clearly 6 of them are dropped. But you can look up the date of your regular movement. Okay, we can get the train of wheels out here. And inspect those. Yes, you guessed it. I think this might be my last E-clip though. Just to get this part out. And I was looking online to see what we should do about these other 2 parts. Because we have some friction fit. I think this one is the tripping gear, and the center wheel, of course. But advice seems to be, if the bushing is okay, this part here, for these gears, not to remove them. So I'm going to just leave those in situ when we put them through the cleaner, and we'll get some of this old grease cleaned up. But I'm also inspecting the bushings, and they look pretty good. And we'll look at the wheels too, and these pivot ends, just check they're okay. Yeah, apart from the obvious. I'm sure once we get all these hairs removed and get these through the cleaner, they'll make a huge improvement. It's just everywhere, isn't it? Right, well, it's not going to fit inside my jar or inside my L&R cleaner, so I think we'll have to do this a different way. I'll use one of the jars. This has got the cleaning fluid in it. And we'll drop some of these clock parts straight into here. Normally we would use a basket and the basket would spin inside, but that's not going to work. So I'm going to put the entire jar straight into the ultrasonic. And look at the difference here. So the plate on the right hasn't been cleaned yet, but the one on the left came out looking really nice. It's doing a good job. So while all the cleaning is happening with the parts, we'll take a look at this cuckoo clock case. See if we can get it cleaned up. I'll use my engine cleaning technique, which is to just dry dust down first of all. There's quite a lot of dust on this one. And I'll just use my knife here just to clean off the edges a little bit. Why not? And then we'll attack it with a soapy screw just to get the remaining dust and dirt and grime out of this clock. I wonder when it was last used. Yeah, this is working a treat. It's coming up really nice. And these must be the supports then for that headboard. I'll just need to tighten those up a little bit. They seem loose. I'm just going to mix up some epoxy resin here just to get onto the corners of the case, and also we'll put that loose leaf that got displaced, we'll put that back as well. Close that too, and I'll clamp it while that glue dries. These things are relatively minor, really. I mean, I think the case is in beautiful condition overall. Just some minor repair work here. Okay, well, everything's out of the cleaner now and looking pretty good. I know I've still got to repair the deer antlers. I'm missing one E-clip, unfortunately. It did ping across the room. Our bellows work, so we can start putting everything back together. I've got to be careful with these. There's probably a tool that would work much better than a screwdriver. But as long as we get them back, we'll be okay. Just get the butterfly in. Now getting these set into these lower pivots is fine. It's putting the other top plate on that's going to be the real challenge. And this is our escape wheel. and a ratchet wheel. And I just got to feed the leader here through the hole carefully, and then just find all of the pivots for each one of those gears. And this is just a matter of patience just to get it all lined up. Yeah, I think I got that slightly wrong. Tricky. Okay. Well, I'm going to use a technique that I also use for pocket watch movements, and that is just to screw down very, very lightly, well, what would be bridge screws, but in this case, these are the nuts on the plates, and I'm not putting any tension on them at all. I'm just working them down slowly and finding the pivot that's obviously the one that's holding the two plates apart. So some here we can see, like that one, there's a gap there, but this one, I'll just slot that into place. I actually wish I had one of those pivot locators, that little tool here that can just slide the pivot over to the right spot. But I'll need to use my tweezers. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. That one I'm going to leave loose because we've got to put the lever on that one. But these three, I think I can tighten up now and set our bird post back. I just want to put some tension on the spring here and hook it over the plate that's nearest us, or at the bottom, that one. Is it going to go? Yep. And that plate, that needs to be underneath the lever, and we can close our jaws. I'll just put that spring onto my screwdriver here while we set this one. I'll put the outer E-clip on, the one that holds the spring on the inside though. I'll need to find a way of just holding that spring back so we can set that one. That's got it. I'll just use my tweezers here. Yep, okay. All right. There's lots of little spring parts here. Now this isn't where this ends up, but I'll just leave it here for now. Okay, careful. Oh. Oh no. Lost it. Must remember to use the rudder go. Okay, this spring clips over here. And I'll put that wheel back, the snail wheel, and the rack. Now, I only have this last E-clip here, and I need two, so I'll need to order some. Yeah, this protective cover goes over the gear, and then there's another E-clip here. Okay, we'll come back to that. We'll get the lifters in for our bellows. This is the long one. And then the shorter one, and the star wheel just works against those pins to operate them. And this is our hammer. That will go against the gong. That's spring loaded. There we are. And our operating lever. Oh, just need to put that spring washer underneath, so we'll do that again. And I don't want to do this up too tight. That should work. Yeah. All right. Well, it's coming along. Just put our pendulum leader back. And that should tick against both sides of the foot there. Near my hand, it's yeah, just like that. Obviously not that fast. We'll do some testing. I've built myself a little frame here so that I can attach the weights. There's a problem there though, look. Do you see it? Magnetic. I'm going to need to demagnetize this movement. Well, something's not right here. It's just going and going and going. Yeah, that should stop, but it's not. Look, the weight is going to sink right to the ground. We've got a problem. Okay. Let's have a closer look to see what's going on here. Yeah, that rack there should get stopped by the plate. It's not quite going underneath. Yeah, see, when it goes underneath it stops and the bird finishes. So maybe it's the magnetism here on the movement. I'm not sure, so we'll try that. We'll demagnetize everything. There's quite a lot of metal for my demagnetizer to work at, but I'm sure it's going to help. And we'll get our weights done as well. And why not the bird, the cuckoo? All right, let's just try that again. That pin should be sitting into the gathering pallet just now, but it's not quite sitting. It's got to go one more notch down there. Yeah, there's something not quite set right. Maybe I need to do some oiling. I'll need to oil up the movement anyway and all the pivots. Let's at least get that done. And I'll put a tiny drop on here as well. And here. Give it all the chances it can have to set correctly. Yeah. There's something quite right. It's not allowing the bird to come back. That catch should release the pin there. And it's not, so I think we need to take a closer look at the mechanism and the setup here. I've got the spring in place. This is the bird set. Then it's doing its chiming. Is it going to stop? Yes. So I'll just finish off the oiling with my Horace Whitlock clock oil. What a great name for a clock oil. And we'll get inside these pivots in the gears. And we'll do the levers for the bellows as well, and the hammer. Just clean up a little bit, and we're just about ready here, I think, to put the bird back onto the bird post. And it should be able to go straight back into the box. One last thing though, my E-clips came in, and I've got to put this cover plate back onto that gear. Oh. So we'll just do that. I think it's this one here, the 1.5 millimeter. Try not to lose it this time. Oh, it nearly went, didn't it? That's it. Okay, ready to go. So I'll just carefully get the bird into its housing first, and then this outside lever on the right. It's all a bit tight. Oh, it goes okay. And then I'm going to use a really small bead of Rodico on these screws and mount them into the screwdriver. This is helpful to get everything set correctly. Just remove a little bit of that Rodico with my tweezers. And we can feed these chains through. So one side will be the weight, and then the other side will be the pull cord for the ratchet. And while I'm still messing around with the clock, I don't want to lose the chain off the ratchet, so I'm just going to use this little trick here with the zip tie. And this holds both sides of our chain together, two pairs. And we'll get our bird attached to the door. Nice. And then go our bellows. Now this one on the left here has got the lifter arm, and the secondary function there for that arm is just to lift the tail of the bird up when it does the cuckoo, or the coo side I should say. Just carefully finding those pins. You can almost feel them slot in. Well, nearly. Let me try that again. Just check where the holes are. Yeah. And then these holes in the side of the case here so that we can hear our cuckoo. I'll get that one tightened down. Then we'll get our lifter arms in. And one thing I did notice with these arms is to make sure that when we're setting this up is not to overdrive the bellows. When the star wheel is turning, if those arms push the bellows up past 100%, then you're just going to strain the cuckoo. So I noticed that when I was testing it. So we'll get the bellows to open up around 90% or so, and just do that by bending those black arms at the bottom. Get my rings on and the hooks. Once that's done, I can remove my safety devices. So let's just check everything. So the weights go onto the hooks. And our pendulum underneath. Now, the trick here is just to set the cuckoo just so that we're getting a very even tick-tock for balance. Otherwise, it very quickly stops. So when we eventually set this up against the wall, I'm going to need to just adjust it slightly left or right. So it's not about visually looking at the cuckoo clock for level, but it's hearing it tick-tock evenly, which is more important, as I understand. Okay, I'll leave the hour hand off just for the moment while we run some tests. Let's just check to see if our cuckoo operates. Oh, no, it's sticking there in the door, look. I don't think I set that correctly. Yeah. Oh, little adjustment needed on that one. Let's just set too far to this left side. Do you see that? Okay, that's just a little tweak, I think. Let's try that again. Okay, well, we've got a coo and a cook the wrong way around. So the hammer should go first for the chime, and then the bottom lever for the cook, and then the top lever for the coo. And I think we're missing the top levers there. It's just not quite releasing. Try that. Yeah, you see that shorter lever? It's not releasing, so the star wheel is just not quite turning around enough. So let's look at these settings again in the gathering palette. Yeah, I think this is the issue here. This pin on this gear is on the wrong side. It should be stopped, but on the other side of that plate. So I need to make an adjustment here. I'm going to have to undo this back plate here and reposition that gear, the one with the pin on it, and remesh that gear so that the pin is on the other side of the stop plate. Just make sure to get these pivots in the holes before we tighten things up again. go. Okay, is it going to go now? Yeah, I think so. There's a little bit more adjustment here, and I want to make sure that this drops all the way down, right onto that stop. We see here, look, our pin on that gear is against the stop now on the correct side, and these have released. Hammer, Cuckoo and Coo. So let's try this now. Aha, much better. How about 4 o'clock? Excellent. Well, we also should have the chime operate first, so with the hammer. So let's get that set, and it's important here to make sure that this is not resting against the hammer, but just away from it, so that it bounces off the chime. Let's try it. How about that? Alright, time to get my epoxy out, and we'll see if we can repair our antlers. I'm not too worried about a little overage there. We can use our X-Acto knife to clear that off. And this one is the longer section though, and I've put a small steel rod inside just to give it a little bit of support. A little bit of tweaking, and I think that's looking okay. So we'll get our deer mounted back into the headboard. This is just simply screwed in. And I'll tidy this up as well. Just a little bit of tape was stuck to it. I still don't know exactly what this is for, but I've got an idea. I think it may have been used as a separator between the hour hand and the minute hand. I'm not 100% on this, but we'll try it. It seems to fit. I'll just tighten that up. And we'll get our headboard mounted as well. I'm getting really close, except there's something missing. Do you know what it is? Pause the video and think for a while if you're not sure, but there's a horn here. I'm missing the end of the horn, look. Well, I need to find some linden or maple wood to make one. I've got this purple heart maple. I don't think that's going to work. I think I'll probably need to use regular maple here. This is kiln dried. We'll cut a section off and put it into our lathe. Total sacrilege to use a watchmaker's lathe for this piece of wood, but it's the only lathe I've got. We'll just have to clean up our mess afterwards. So I've got my self-centering 3-jaw chuck, and we'll mount it into here. And we'll hand turn this and choose some weapons. Yeah, a few of these gravers should work. I'll find some nice sharp ones and mark out what we need for our horn. Okay, well, maybe these weren't quite as sharp as I thought, but we'll keep working away. Well, we're getting there. I'll just cut the inside out and check our diameter. I need about 4 millimeters, so a little bit more work to do. And we can sand it down. I think that's good. Time to cut this off. Let's check to see if that will work for us. How about that? Well, we'll need to get it stained up, but I think that should work out nice. I'll use a coffee stain here. That seems quite close. That's a shade off, but I don't think it's that noticeable. We'll finish it with a semi-gloss and try that. What do you think? I think it's ready to go. Ready for the big test. I'm just going to tweak these levers a little bit. Make sure everything operates correctly. And we'll get our pendulum adjusted as well. It was running slightly fast. I'm going to slow it down by sliding the leaf down just a little bit on our pendulum. Now we need to find a spot to test, and I know just the right place. It's snowing outside. We're next to the Christmas tree. Let's check to see if it all works. Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed the Black Forest Cuckoo Clock. Until next time.